Israel-Iran news now. During their brief strike, the Israelis launched 3 missiles. An official from the United States informed ABC News that Israel attacked Iran in retaliation early on Friday morning local time. According to Israeli military officials, Iran launched a barrage of over 300 missiles and drones on Israeli targets on Saturday, which led to the strike. Israel and its allies, including the U.S., were able to intercept the vast majority, according to officials. More than 6 months had passed since the terrorist group Hamas invaded Israel on October 7, the same day that the Israeli military started bombing Gaza, when Iran launched its offensive over the weekend. Current news stories. Following Blinken's statement that the U.S. may censure the IDF, Netanyahu answers. In a short strike, Israelis launched 3 missiles. The U.S. is not involved, according to Blinken, in Israel's attack on Iran. International Atomic Energy Agency, Israeli strike did not damage Iran's nuclear facilities. Somewhere in Iran, Israeli rockets have struck. Iron Dome, Israel's missile defense system, reportedly withstood 300 threats of all varieties launched by Iran on Saturday, passing the test with flying colors. Daniel Hagari, a spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces, stated that 170 UAVs, over 120 ballistic missiles, and over 30 cruise missiles were launched by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps during the strike. According to Hagari, a very major strategic achievement was the interception of 99% of the threats fired into Israeli land. According to Hagari, the sole Israeli victim from the attack was a 7-year-old girl who was hit by shrapnel, presumably from a missile that had been intercepted, and she was gravely hurt, under the Leahy Law, which allows the Secretary of State to withhold funding from foreign military units accused of human rights violations. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the department will announce his determinations regarding the Israel Defense Forces in the coming days. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, might face sanctions and a cutoff of military aid if the U.S. government takes this action. To claim that you will notice results quickly would be an understatement. I've made my determinations, and you can expect to see them in the days ahead, he told the journalists gathering for the G7 summit. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, issued a statement on X arguing that the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, should not be subject to sanctions. Discussions with high-ranking American government officials are just one example of how I've been fighting against sanctions on Israeli citizens in recent weeks. Saturday, Netanyahu stated, the plan to impose a fine on a unit in the IDF is the height of foolishness and a moral low. He said that our soldiers are now combating terror creatures. In a long statement, the foreign ministers of the 7 participating countries at the G7 summit in Capri, Italy, denounced Iran's attack on Israel over the weekend. We, the undersigned G7 foreign ministers from Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US, along with the High Representative of the EU, strongly denounce Iran's unprecedented and direct attack on Israel on April 13 to 14, which Israel was able to repel with the assistance of its allies. Iran fired hundreds of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones, the leaders stated, describing the escalation as hazardous. We will hold the Iranian government accountable for its harmful and destabilizing acts. We remain ready to adopt new sanctions or take other steps, now and in reaction to further destabilizing initiatives, the leaders said. Given the reports of strikes on April 19, from Israel to Iran, we sincerely believe that all parties involved must cooperate to avoid any more escalation, they continued. Along with other demands, the G7 leaders urged Israel to open the Gaza Strip to humanitarian supplies. With the support of Democrats, Speaker Mike Johnson was able to avert defeat on Friday as the House passed foreign aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, despite the fact that dozens of Republicans defected. Aid to Israel would amount to about $26 billion under the proposed law. After it passes, the House will have Saturday morning to discuss the legislation and then vote in the afternoon to send them to the Senate.